Hey, it's Danny. Welcome to ProjectManaverse.com, and in this video I'm going to tell you when it's safe to close down your project. So first of all, what do I mean by closing down a project? What is project closure? Well, project closure is when you have formally shut down the project, everything is done, you can officially say that you have delivered, you've done your job, and you can walk away as a project manager, and the project team can stand down and now they can go on to do other things, and the business have officially taken on responsibility for whatever the project has delivered. That's what project closure is. Now, why should you care about closing down a project properly and formally as a project manager? Well, several reasons. First of all, as I say, it enables you to walk away from the project formally and cleanly as a project manager. If you don't do a proper project closure, you're always kind of lingering in the background. You can never really get away and escape the project. People are constantly asking you questions about what has been delivered or things that have been done on it, because you're basically the face of the project as a project manager. So people will always come to you to ask questions. So if you don't formally close it down, it's hard to escape that and get a clean break and move on to other things. So it's in your interest to close it down properly. Another reason, it's very, very good for the business and the customers. So if you deliver something and you give it to the customers, you want to be able to make sure that they are happy to really take on the product and run with it and operate it before you walk away, because otherwise it's really not fair on them. I've seen many projects where the project is so keen to get the thing live and deliver, and when it actually happens, they put it live and go, yeah, we've done it, woo, brilliant, and they all celebrate, and then the thing they delivered isn't actually that good, doesn't work properly, and the business left with all kind of problems, and then the project team just gets dissolved and walk away, and the business is not really left in a very good place, because they have to pick up all the pieces in terms of what wasn't delivered and what was delivered that isn't working correctly. So it pays to do this properly, because if you properly formally close down your project, that doesn't happen. You can't formally close down and hand over the product to the business and close it down without them accepting it, and they won't accept it unless they're ready to. So it's the right thing to do for your customers and the business to make sure you close down the project properly. The last reason why you should really make sure you do this properly is it reflects well on you, on your track record of delivery. If you can get clear formal closure on all the projects you've done, you can actually add it to your list and your belt and your feather in your hat to say, yeah, I've done that project, it was closed down, it was handed over to the business formally, rather than not really completing the project. It's only kind of half done if you don't really deliver it properly and you kind of slink away and leave a bunch of chaos in your wake. Now, you want to do it properly so you can have that track record of successful delivery on your CV. And when you go into an interview for a project manager role or a next level up role, you want to make sure you've got a nice, good, clean record of successful delivery. That's what they're looking for. That's what they can instantly judge you on as a project manager. What have you delivered? Was it a success? What's your track record? This really helps with that. Okay, so that's why you should care about project closure. So now let's go on to a bit of a checklist I put together for you to answer the question, am I ready to close down the project, yes or no? So here's the checklist. Number one, so when you have achieved all your project outcomes and objectives, and sometimes they can be measured by what's called critical success factors, which are recorded at the start of the project. But somewhere in your project documentation, you'll have a list of all the project outcomes you are looking to deliver, be that a scope document or a charter or a high-level requirements document or critical success factors. You can go to that list and just go for each one and say, right, have we delivered each of those things? If you haven't, then you're probably not in the right place to close down the project. If you have, then great, that's a definite tick in the box, and you can move on to starting to close down your project. Number two, when no more resources are being paid for. So that's it. So that's another good sign. So when you delivered your project, sometimes the project team can still hang around, and you can be helping out with trying to get things sorted. But if you don't have any money to actually fund the team, and they're just doing it side of desk, or they're just doing it to be kind because no one's really paying too much attention to the governance of if they should be working on the project or not. So if you have no more people on your team that are formally being paid for, that is definitely a clear-cut sign that you should start to shut down your project. So you've got to draw the line somewhere, and if you don't have any money to pay for them, you've either got to get the money to extend the project a bit more formally, or you've got to formally close it down. And if you can't get the money to extend them, or you don't think you need it anymore, then you should really close it down. So that's your second kind of checklist item. If you don't have any resources that are being paid for, but they're still working on the project, then you need to close it down. Okay, the next one is you've got a target operating model has been put in place clearly. That's something that is sometimes overlooked on projects. We're so focused on delivering the product, we don't spend enough time on thinking about how it's going to run once it has been delivered. What all of the process is going to be for running it if it goes wrong. Who do people call? What are the kind of day-to-day maintenance jobs that need to be done on it? All those kind of things need to be thought about, and we put them in an operating model or a target operating model. And once you've gone live, that should now become no longer the target operating model, it's just the operating model. But if you've got that documented and you can see it clearly being done in the live environment, and you've got all the teams set up and they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing according to and and it reflects the operating model exactly, then great, that's a clear sign that you can start to close down your project. Okay, the next one is that you've done the handover to the business. Now, I've mentioned this before. When you're building something or delivering something, someone's going to be using it, someone's going to be owning it, someone's going to be taking responsibility for it once the project has been closed. So you need to hand over formally that thing to whoever is accepting it. So if you haven't done that handover in any shape or form, and it should be quite a formal process, should be documented, written down, all agreed and signed off, then you're definitely not ready to close down the project. So that has to happen first. Make sure it's handed down properly, or handed over properly. Okay, the next one is that the benefits of your project have been realized. So many projects are put there to get some kind of benefit. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're there just because we have to do them to keep the lights running, as we say, or to make sure things are still being maintained, like software has to be upgraded to stay in support with the vendor, so we still get their support, or we just need to keep maintaining things to keep the lights on, or keep the bank running, or sorry, to keep the operations running. But sometimes we do things just to get get specific benefit, be that a cost saving, be that extra revenue, whatever it's going to be. And if it's a benefit, and it's usually monetary or time saved, you need to be able to demonstrate that you've achieved that benefit. And sometimes that can take a long time. Sometimes it can take months or even a year to show that benefit coming through. And you can't really officially close down the project until you've demonstrated that you've achieved that benefit. Sometimes you can, there are always exceptions, but generally, if you've got benefits to prove and you haven't yet proved them, it's probably not the right time to close it down. You can certainly ramp things down significantly, sound down the resources, and just monitor that the benefit tracking. But yeah, until you've really proven that you've delivered something that has added value and you set out to increase the profit, or sorry, you've delivered on increasing the profit or reducing costs, then probably not the right time to close down the project. Okay, so that's the checklist for when you can close down the project. So I'll just do a quick recap and then we'll wrap up the video. So first of all, have you achieved all your project objectives or critical success factors? Go through your initial list and say yes or no. And if you haven't, if there is like one or two that you haven't done, then but you think you don't need to do at this point, you just have to make sure that's agreed with the business that you're handing over to. And if you think you can do that, then you can probably start to close down your project. But as a general rule, make sure you've delivered all your outcomes that you initially started to set out to do. Okay, next one is that you've got no more resources, or the resources are working on the project, but you've got no funding for them. So if that's the case, then you actually kind of need to start thinking about closing it down, because you can't go on out of the goodness of your heart forever. The next one is the target operating model is in full swing and it's being worked on, and you're seeing it being actioned, I suppose, in the live environment. If that is all set up, that's a really big win. You can definitely look to start closing down your project. Next one is, have you done your handover to the business? Have they fully acknowledged the changes and accepted them? Have they accepted all the workarounds they have to do and all the processes? And are they comfortable that the thing that you have delivered is stable and running in the live environment well. And the last one is the benefits have been realized. If you've realized your benefits, or you've now proven that you've made a profit, or you've cut costs, or whatever you were looking to do, then yep, it's time to close down the project. Okay, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and until tomorrow, please take care.